The Deathworld Alliance was not a coalition formed out of friendship or mutual respect. It was forged in fire and desperation. The galaxy's harshest predators had banded together not because they wanted to, but because they had to. Their worlds were crucibles of survival, where the weak died quickly and the strong fought endlessly. But now, the core dominion, a sprawling empire of cold precision and endless resources, threatened to consume everything. In their desperation, the Alliance sent a message across the stars to Earth, a planet considered a backwater with primitive technology and fragile life. But Earth had something no other species in the Alliance could claim: unpredictable resilience. The humans had survived centuries of self-inflicted catastrophes, wars that nearly wiped themselves out, and yet they emerged stronger each time. They were wild cards, unrefined, chaotic, dangerous. The invitation was a gamble. When the human starship Resolve touched down on Varknal, the capital planet of the Alliance, it was clear to all observers that these newcomers were unlike any other species the Alliance had met. Where others arrived heavily armed, armored head to toe, humans emerged with an air of casual confidence. Captain Alara Jensen led her crew, a mixed group of scientists, diplomats, and soldiers, stepping onto the sulfurous soil without the cumbersome exosuits the locals insisted upon. Ilara smiled broadly at the gathering crowd of strange, multi-eyed, and clawed figures. Her voice rang clear and steady despite the alien roar of acid rains and high winds. "We come to learn, we come to fight, and we come to survive. If you want allies, you'll find we don't quit." The Vrothi ambassador, a creature with 6 razor-sharp mandibles and a gaze like a predator scanning prey, hissed quietly to the Threxian general beside him. Fools or madmen, possibly both. The Deathworld Council chamber was carved from living rock, vast and echoing with the footsteps of ancient predators. The assembled leaders towered over the humans, their bodies covered in scales, fur, and armor plates adapted to harsh environments that would kill a human in seconds. Koran chieftain Larnak spoke first, his voice deep and commanding. "Our worlds demand strength. Your kind walks lightly through storms that shred armor. Do you understand the price of survival here?" Ilara's reply was steady. "We understand pain. We understand loss. We understand what it means to be pushed to the edge and come back fighting." Larnak's eyes narrowed, skepticism etched into every line of his face. "Then prove it. Survive the storm. Survive the mountain. Survive Varknal." The next day, the humans were led into the planet's most deadly environment, a jagged mountain range where acid rains burned through metal and lightning struck without mercy. Most Deathworld species moved with caution, their bodies shielded and protected. The humans, however, wore lightweight suits and boots, their faces exposed to the storm's fury. Nate Collins, a young human ranger, slipped from the group to explore, deeper into a ravine rumored to shelter the planet's apex predator, a massive, clawed beast known for merciless attacks. He was expected to perish, but instead Nate found the creature caught under fallen debris, injured and helpless. Without hesitation, Nate approached, speaking softly in Earth's oldest tongue, soothing the animal's pain with calm hands and steady breath. The Alliance scouts watching through concealed sensors whispered disbelief. They do not fear death. They embrace it. They tame death itself. At camp, humans gathered around a flickering fire that somehow resisted the acid storm's corrosive touch. They shared stories of Earth, of ancient ice ages, nuclear wars, mass extinctions, and global pandemics. They spoke not with bitterness but pride. "Our world has been broken more times than we can count," Ilara said. "Each time we rebuild. Each time we become stronger." The alien leaders listened with a mixture of awe and unease. Larnak muttered, "You speak of resilience like a weapon." Ilara met his gaze squarely. "Resilience is a weapon. We do not fear the end. We learn to thrive in it." Days passed. The humans continued their defiance of the planet's lethal environment, building shelters from the wreckage of fallen drones, improvising tools from scavenged parts, moving with a confidence that bordered on recklessness. Lightning struck near their camp, setting the ground ablaze, yet they laughed as they danced through the fire, Calling the storm bracing, behind closed doors the Deathworld Council convened urgently. What had they invited? This was no ordinary species, no mere ally to command. The humans were something else, something dangerous. Larnak's voice was grim. They are a storm, a wildfire, unpredictable and unstoppable. We may have invited friends, but we have awakened a force we do not control. Ilara Jensen, standing quietly in the shadows of the chamber, allowed herself a faint smile. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The storms of Varknal were relentless. Acid rain fell in sheets sizzling against the armor of the Deathworld species like molten glass. Lightning cracked the sky in violent arcs, turning night into day in blinding flashes. The ground shook beneath the constant bombardment, and the very air seemed charged with hostility. Most species retreated behind impenetrable shields or hovercrafts built to withstand these hellish conditions. But the humans, those strange, defiant creatures, took a different approach. Nate Collins led a small squad of human rangers deeper into the planet's toxic wilderness, their light armor marked with patches of Earth's flags and symbols. Their boots crunched over shards of glassy rock, acid sizzling where droplets touched the soil. Around them, predatory beasts watched from the shadows, hulking silhouettes with claws like scythes and eyes that glowed with hunger. "Stay sharp," Nate whispered, voice low but steady. The mountains watching. Behind him, Layla Chang scanned the horizon with enhanced optics. Sensors are picking up something moving near the ridge, not one of the local predators. "Could be the storm," Nate said with a grin. "Or maybe we've got company. They were here to test their limits, survive where others would perish." Elsewhere, the Vrothi scout Kushlar observed from a rocky outcrop. His mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Why do they not hide? Why do they expose themselves? His companion, the Threxian warrior Grath, snarled. "Because they are mad, or suicidal." Kushlar shook his head. "No, there is something else. They do not fear the storm. They welcome it." The humans moved with a strange rhythm, weaving between lightning strikes, ignoring acidic streams that would melt through armored plating. They sang strange songs, earth melodies unfamiliar but oddly fierce, echoing through the mountain's howling winds. Back at the human camp, engineers worked tirelessly. Using scavenged drone parts and raw materials from the planet's surface, they crafted tools and weapons, primitive, yes, but effective. An improvised water filter siphoned moisture from the acid rain, neutralizing toxins with a chemical blend developed on Earth decades ago. The camp's fire was protected by a force field of electromagnetic pulses, flickering in the air like a ghostly barrier. Captain Ilara Jensen paced among her team, her eyes bright with unyielding resolve. "Adaptation is our weapon," she told. "Them. This planet is trying to kill us. Good. We'll show it why Earthlings don't quit." One evening, Nate and Layla ventured closer to the rumored nest of Varkanal's apex predator, a hulking beast named the Skrell, whose claws could tear through the thickest armor and whose roar shattered bone. It was said to be the most lethal hunter on the planet, and every Deathworlder feared it. They found it not hunting, but trapped beneath a collapsed ledge, its massive body writhing in pain. "Looks like fate gave us a chance," Layla said softly. Nate approached cautiously, removing his helmet to reveal a sweat-drenched face streaked with dirt. He knelt beside the beast, speaking in a quiet voice, Earth's ancient dialect, while carefully loosening debris. The Skrell's eyes, fierce and wild, locked onto Nate's. For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Then, with a guttural growl that reverberated through the mountains, the beast ceased struggling. From hidden observation posts, Alliance soldiers watched in stunned silence. Vrothi scout Kushlar whispered, "They do not dominate the beast by force. They tame it through will." Grath clenched his claws. "That is not nature. That is madness." As days turned to weeks, the humans began to win grudging respect and mounting fear. They weren't just surviving the Deathworld. They were mastering it. In private, the Council of Predators convened, Koran chieftain Larnak spoke with a grim tone. The humans do not merely endure, they transform the world around them, bend it to their will. This is unprecedented. The Vrothi ambassador added, they seem to thrive on adversity. Where others falter, they grow stronger. A young Threxian general leaned forward, voice sharp. And they laugh while doing it. The room was silent. Late one night, Ilara sat alone outside the human camp, staring up at the twin suns setting behind jagged peaks. Nate joined her, handing her a steaming cup of synthesized coffee. They think we're reckless, he said quietly. Ilara smiled, eyes never leaving the horizon. Let them think what they want. We don't survive by playing safe. Nate nodded. They don't understand the fire that forged us. They never will, Ilara said. But soon enough, they'll learn to respect it, or fear it. On. Varkanal, the storms raged on, unrelenting and unforgiving. Yet beneath the lightning and acid, something new was taking root. A force of nature no one could control, a species born of chaos and sharpened by relentless hardship. The Deathworld. Alliance had invited humanity to the table, hoping for allies. What they got was a storm. The Deathworld Alliance was known for its brutal training exercises, a ritual designed to sharpen every fighter into a weapon. The war games pitted species against each other in simulated combat, a deadly dance of strategy, strength, and cunning. It was here the Alliance tested the limits of every ally and enemy alike. When the Alliance leaders decided to test the humans, many scoffed. What could fragile Earthlings do that the seasoned predators could not? The arena was a shattered canyon. On Varkanal, its walls scorched by ancient fires and etched with scars from countless battles. The humans entered lightly armed, carrying scavenged rifles, improvised explosives, and strange gadgets that even the veteran soldiers didn't recognize. The opposing squad was a team of elite Deathworlders, Threxian warriors clad in dense bioarmor, equipped with plasma lances and kinetic disruptors. They expected a quick victory. The horn sounded, a guttural roar that echoed through the canyon, and the war game began. From the start, the humans refused to follow the conventional tactics the Alliance prided itself on. Where the Threxians formed tight phalanxes, the humans splintered into small, fast-moving units that darted through craggy outcrops and acid-burned trees. They ignored attempts at direct confrontation, using guerrilla tactics that frustrated their opponents. Layla Chang, leading one squad, deployed a series of crude but effective traps, acid grenades that erupted in clouds of corrosive vapor, tripwires wired to automated crossbows scavenged from old battle sites. The Threxians stumbled, their heavy armor corroding faster than expected. Captain Ilara watched from the command post, a faint smile playing on her lips. They taught us how to survive, she said quietly to her second-in-command. Now watch us dominate. The humans adapted quickly to every counterattack. When the Threxians used bio-disruptors to jam their comms, the humans switched to hand signals and prearranged code words. When their weapons jammed, they used their environment, throwing rocks, collapsing cliffs, even coaxing a pack of native predators to attack from the shadows. The Threxian general, Grath, seethed as he watched the simulation crumble. These humans fight dirty, he snarled. They have no honor. Honor won't save you when you're dead, Ilara replied coolly during a tense council debrief later. We don't play by your rules because your rules would have killed us long ago. The turning point came when Nate Collins's squad cornered a Threxian unit near the canyon's edge. Outnumbered and trapped, the humans made a brutal choice. Layla threw a grenade, not a lethal one but a pulse that disabled the enemy's armor systems. As the Threxians struggled, Nate stepped forward and shattered a bioweapon mounted on their leader's arm, smiling faintly. You taught us survival. Now watch us break your weapons. It was a small victory, but it echoed through the Alliance. After the simulation ended, the humans did something no other species dared. They brought back a live specimen from the canyon, the legendary Skrell, the apex predator of Varkanal. Ilara stood proudly beside the massive creature, its eyes wary but subdued in a reinforced containment field. "You wanted proof of our strength," she said. "Here it is. Not just survival, but control." Whispers spread quickly. The humans were no longer a curiosity or a liability. They were a new kind of predator. Yet fear grew alongside respect. The Alliance Council met in secret, their voices low and tense. Larnak's voice was grim. "They do not just survive. They bend the battlefield to their will. Their tactics are unpredictable, ruthless, and effective." Vrothy Ambassador Kishlar added, "And they do not hesitate to sacrifice the few for the many. We have never faced an enemy like this." The humans returned to their camp, weary but undefeated. Ilara looked out over the horizon, her gaze sharp and unyielding. "We've earned a place at this table," she said quietly. "But the real test is yet to come." Behind her, Nate and Layla prepared for what lay ahead, knowing that the Deathworld was only the beginning, and the galaxy beyond held challenges that would push humanity to its limits. The Alliance Council chambers were silent, but for the faint hum of energy shields and the occasional drip of condensation sliding down ancient stone walls. The Deathworld leaders gathered once more, but this time the air was thick with something, sharper than suspicion: fear. Captain Ilara Jensen had proven that humans were not just survivors. They were warriors who reshaped the rules of engagement. Yet that success came at a price. Koran Chieftain Larnak slammed his fist against the stone table, sending vibrations through the room. "We cannot allow these humans to become too powerful. Their methods undermine our traditions. They sow chaos within our ranks." The Vrothy Ambassador Kishlar leaned forward, mandibles twitching. "Their unpredictability is a threat. If we do not act, they may fracture our fragile alliance from within." A younger Threxian general, eyes burning with suspicion, nodded. "I propose we send spies. We must learn their weaknesses, find the cracks beneath their confidence." Unbeknownst to the Council, the humans were not idle. In the heart of the Deathworld capital, Ilara convened her own secret meeting. Her lieutenants gathered around a holographic star map, the glowing image flickering in the dim light of their command tent. "We've earned respect through strength," Ilara said, voice steady. "But respect can turn to envy, and envy to betrayal." Nate Collins, rubbing a fresh scar on his arm, asked, "You think they're spying on us?" Ilara's eyes darkened. "It's not a question of if, but when. We have to be ready." That night, the humans deployed their own counterintelligence, a network of scouts and hackers blending Earth technology with scavenged Deathworld tech. They tapped into communication grids, intercepted encrypted messages, and tracked suspicious movements. Layla Chang, the team's lead scout, returned from a reconnaissance mission with troubling news. "We've detected several unauthorized transmissions near our perimeter. They're probing for vulnerabilities." Ilara's jaw tightened. "They want to know what we fear. Let's give them something to fear instead." In the shadows of the city, a squad of Alliance operatives moved silently toward the human camp. Their plan was simple: infiltrate, gather intelligence, disrupt if necessary. But humans were not easy prey. Layla and her team lay in wait, using the terrain and the planet's deadly environment as allies. Acid rain began to fall, hissing as it struck the rocky ground, masking their presence. When the operatives stepped into a trap, a concealed pit filled with corrosive fluid and automated crossbows, the ambush was swift and brutal. The invaders were forced to retreat, leaving behind crucial data drives and scrambled communications. Back in the council chamber, the failed infiltration sparked furious debate. Larnak growled, "These humans are more dangerous than we realized. They do not just fight with weapons, but with intelligence and cunning." Vrothy Ambassador Kishlar warned, "If we cannot control them, the alliance will unravel. They are a storm within our ranks." Meanwhile, the humans were not merely defending themselves, they were planning. Ilara stood before her team, determination blazing in her eyes. The Alliance fears our unpredictability. We'll use that to our advantage. Nate smirked. You mean break their alliances apart? Exactly, Ilara said. Divide and conquer. We've survived chaos on Earth. We can create it here. She sent envoys to the lesser factions within the Alliance, species long marginalized, resentful of the dominant powers. She offered them technology, protection, and a chance to rewrite the rules of the galaxy. Whispers of dissent began to ripple through the Deathworld coalition. Old grudges resurfaced, suspicion turned to open hostility. The Deathworld alliance was beginning to crack. One night, as Ilara stood watching the twin suns set behind jagged peaks, Nate approached quietly. They're scared of us, he said simply. Ilara nodded. Good. Fear is the first step to respect. But we must be ready, for when that fear turns to hatred. Behind them, the skies of Varkanal roared with lightning, a wild symphony underscoring the coming storm. The Deathworld alliance had always been a fragile balance of power, a coalition held together by mutual fear and necessity rather than trust or loyalty. But with humans in the mix, that balance began to crumble like cracked obsidian under pressure. Ilara, Jensen sat in the heart of the human command center, surrounded by holographic maps flickering with activity. Lines connected distant systems, each representing tenuous alliances or simmering rivalries. Our message is clear, she said, voice calm but resolute. We are here to survive, and to change the rules. Across the fractured coalition, smaller factions responded with cautious hope. The Sarathi, a reptilian species long marginalized for their weak bioarmor but renowned for their cunning, accepted the humans' offer of advanced Earth technology. In exchange, they pledged covert support, sharing intelligence and disrupting supply lines for the larger powers. A secret meeting between Ilara and the Sarathi leader, Veshkar, was held deep beneath the toxic clouds of Varkanal. Your technology has saved many of my people, Veshkar hissed, eyes glinting with both gratitude and ambition. If this alliance holds, we can break the chains that bind us. Ilara nodded. Then we'll give them a fight they never expected. But the larger powers did not remain idle. The core Dominion, cold and calculating, deployed fleets to blockade key trade routes, strangling supply lines. The Vrothi, ever suspicious, intensified their espionage efforts, and the Threxians prepared, their legions, sharpening claws and steel alike. At a war council, General Grath slammed his gauntleted fist on the table. The humans are poison. They spread dissent like wildfire, weakening us from within. Larnak's voice was colder. Their unpredictability threatens our very survival. We must isolate them. Meanwhile, Ilara's human forces continued their relentless campaign, not just in battle but in strategy. Layla Chang led daring raids on supply depots, using guerrilla tactics honed on Earth's toughest battlefields. Nate Collins coordinated sabotage teams, crippling enemy communications and sowing confusion. They fought not just with weapons but with information, and every victory sent ripples through the Alliance's fractured foundations. In the depths of Varkanal's shadowed cities, secret meetings grew more frequent. Factions whispered of rebellion. Alliances forged in smoke-filled chambers lit by flickering fires. A Threxian senator, long disillusioned with the Alliance's endless wars, approached Ilara's envoy under the cover of darkness. The Council fears you, he said, voice low. But many among us see the truth. You are the catalyst for change we need. Ilara studied him carefully. Change comes at a price. He nodded. We are ready to pay it. Yet with every alliance gained, the stakes grew higher. The humans knew their presence was a spark in a powder keg. One misstep could ignite a war that consumed them all. Ilara gathered her closest advisors. We've fractured the alliance, but we haven't broken it. Nate's jaw was set. What's next? Ilara's eyes burned with determination. We force the alliance to confront what they fear most, a galaxy where humans don't just survive. They dominate. As tensions reached a boiling point, the skies over Varkanal darkened with approaching fleets. The core dominions Yao. Warships loomed on the horizon, a reminder that the coming conflict would be no mere skirmish. The Deathworld alliance was unraveling, and at its center stood the humans, a force that refused to be tamed. In the eye of the storm, Ilara smiled. The game had changed. The horizon burned with the fire of approaching warships. The core Dominion's fleet, sleek, relentless, and equipped with the deadliest weaponry in the galaxy, moved like a storm crashing toward Varknal. Their goal was clear: crush the rebellious factions before the humans could further destabilize the fragile alliance. Captain Ilara Jensen stood on the bridge of the Resolve, watching the ominous silhouettes grow against the burning sky. The crew prepared for battle, but Ilara's mind raced beyond the immediate fight. This was a test, not just of strength, but of strategy, unity, and will. The core fleet opened fire, plasma lances ripping through the atmosphere and igniting the toxic clouds. The battle for Varknal had begun. Human pilots launched agile fighters darting between the massive warships with surprising speed. Unlike the heavy, disciplined formations of the core, human squadrons favored hit-and-run tactics, striking weak points and disappearing before retaliation. Lieutenant Marcus Gray, one of Earth's best pilots, maneuvered his fighter through a hail of plasma fire. "These Dominion ships aren't ready for this," he radioed, voice steady despite the chaos. "They expect straightforward combat. We give them guerrilla war in space." On the planet's surface, Nate Collins led squads of Rangers coordinating with orbital fighters. Using terrain to their advantage, they launched precision strikes on Dominion ground forces, targeting supply depots and command centers. Layla Chang deployed electronic warfare units that jammed enemy communications, turning the Dominion's disciplined legions into disorganized mobs. The core commanders quickly realized that conventional tactics failed against the unpredictable humans. Amid the battle, a sudden explosion rocked the Resolve. The ship's shields flickered as a Dominion cruiser's plasma blast struck close. Ilara steadied herself. "Damage report. Shields holding at 50%, Captain." "Engineering teams are working on it," came the rapid reply. Ilara nodded. "Keep us moving. We're not out of this yet." In the council chambers, the remaining Deathworld leaders watched the battle unfold on massive holoscreens. The core, Dominion's general, cold and ruthless, clenched his jaw as he witnessed the humans' defiance. "They fight like cornered beasts," he muttered. "But beasts can be caged." Vrothy Ambassador Kashlar hissed. "They are more than beasts. They are a virus infecting our alliance." Larnak's eyes burned with bitter resolve. "Then we must burn the infection out." Back on Varknal, the battle reached a critical moment when Dominion ground forces attempted a surprise assault on the human camp. Nate and Layla prepared a last stand. "Hold this position at all costs," Nate ordered. "We cannot let them breach our defenses." Explosions rocked the terrain as acid rain mingled with fire. Human soldiers fought with a ferocity that stunned even their seasoned Deathworld allies. Layla, eyes sharp, spotted an incoming Dominion siege walker. "Target locked. Concentrate fire on the walker's joints." The walker faltered under the barrage, collapsing in a shower of sparks and molten metal. As the battle raged, Ilara received an urgent transmission from one of her agents deep within. "The Alliance. Captain, the Council is fracturing faster than we thought. Several factions are ready to defect. If we press now, we can split the Dominion's power and force a surrender." Ilara smiled grimly. "Prepare to send the signal. It's time to end this." The human forces rallied. Coordinated strikes shattered Dominion supply lines. Sabotage teams crippled warships in orbit. Allied factions within the Alliance launched uprisings in key systems. The tide was turning. On the bridge of the Resolve, Ilara gazed at the distant battlefield, knowing this was only the beginning. "We've faced Deathworlds, storms, and enemies who think us weak," she said quietly. "Now the galaxy knows. Humans do not break. We fight. We win." The stars beyond seemed to blaze brighter in response, a promise of a future forged by those who refuse to be conquered. The once mighty Deathworld alliance was crumbling, splintering into factions fueled by fear, ambition, and desperation. The humans, Strangers from a distant, chaotic planet had ignited a firestorm no one had predicted. In the shadowed halls of the Alliance Council, the tension was palpable. Larnak's fists clenched around the edge of the war table, his face a mask of fury and frustration. "They will not be contained," he growled. "We must strike before their influence spreads." Further, the Vrothi ambassador Kishlar, normally calm and measured, paced with sharp, nervous clicks of his mandibles. "Our spies report entire systems considering defection. The humans' reach is greater than anticipated." General Grath's voice cut through the room like a blade. "Then we end this now. Total war." But the seeds of rebellion had already taken root. The Sarathi, once loyal vassals, openly sided with the humans. Their fleets launched coordinated strikes on Dominion outposts, opening critical supply lines. The core Dominion found itself besieged from within and without. Ilara Jensen stood before a holographic assembly of her new allies, a mosaic of species, each marked by scars of war, but united by the human spark. "Our victory today is not just against the Dominion," she said, voice ringing with conviction. "It is a victory for freedom, for the right to shape our own destiny." Nate Collins added, "We fight not because we want war, but because we refuse to be slaves to fear and tradition." On the battlefield, chaos reigned. Orbital stations exploded in fiery blossoms as human sabotage teams infiltrated their cores. Ground battles erupted in shattered cities, acid rains mixing with the smoke of war. The Dominion's fleets fought desperately, but the tides had turned. A critical engagement unfolded near the planet Verax Prime, a key Dominion stronghold. Ilara led the assault personally, coordinating air and ground forces in a daring maneuver that broke through the enemy's defensive perimeter. Layla Chang's sniper team disabled command towers, sowing confusion among Dominion ranks. Nate's Rangers neutralized key artillery positions, paving the way for the final push. In the heat of battle, Ilara confronted General Grath face to face. The Threxian's armor was scarred, his eyes burning with unyielding hatred. "You and your humans have shattered our world, but this ends here." Ilara met his gaze steadily. "No, this is just the beginning. You fought to preserve an outdated order. We fight to build a future." They clashed, steel against steel, strategy against strategy, in a battle that symbolized the death throes of an empire. Meanwhile, in the corridors of power, betrayal ran deep. Koran chieftain Larnak, seeing the tide turning, secretly negotiated with rival factions, attempting to broker a truce that would exclude the humans entirely. But his efforts were too little, too late. As the Dominion's hold fractured, the Alliance's old guards were forced to accept a new reality. The humans, once outsiders, were now undeniable architects of the galaxy's future. Back on Varknal, under skies still crackling with storm and fire, Ilara stood beside Nate and Layla. The battle was far from over, but the Alliance's foundations had been shattered. Layla broke the silence. "They feared us and now they hate us." Ilara's eyes gleamed with fierce resolve. "Good, because that hatred will keep us alive." Nate nodded. "Let them come. We're ready." The galaxy was changing. The Deathworld Alliance was no more. In its place rose something new, a force tempered in the fires of adversity, unpredictable and unstoppable. Humanity had not just survived the storm. They had become it. The dawn over Varkanal was unlike any the galaxy had seen before. Twin suns rose over shattered spires and smoldering battlefields, casting long shadows on a world forever changed. The Deathworld Alliance, once a monolithic force of terror and tradition, lay in ruins, its pieces scattered like ashes on the wind. Yet from those ashes something new was born. Captain Ilara Jensen stood atop a ridge overlooking the capital city, now scarred but still breathing. The air was thick with the acrid scent of burnt ozone and the distant cries of survivors rebuilding their lives. Beside her, Nate Collins scanned the horizon, wariness in his eyes despite their hard-won victory. "We did it," he said quietly. "But at what cost?" Ilara's gaze hardened. The cost was inevitable. Change never comes without sacrifice. Below them, representatives of the fractured factions gathered in a tentative peace summit, the remnants of the old alliance and new powers shaped by war and ambition. Alara addressed the assembly with a voice that carried the weight of humanity's struggle. "We fought not just to survive," she declared, "but to prove that adaptability, unity, and resilience can forge a better future. The galaxy is vast, full of challenges and dangers, but it is ours to shape." The Srathi leader, Veshkar, nodded solemnly. "Your strength and vision have given us hope. Together, we can build a coalition not of fear, but of purpose." Even General Grath, once a bitter enemy, stepped forward. His armor bore the scars of their duel, but his eyes held a new respect. "The galaxy will never be the same," he admitted. "Humans have shown us that survival is not enough. We must evolve." Yet despite the fragile peace, the galaxy remained a dangerous place. As the summit continued, Ilara's comm device beeped, a coded message from an unknown source. She glanced at Nate and Layla before answering. The voice on the other end was urgent, distant. "Captain Jensen, you've turned the tide here. But be warned, other powers watch and wait. The shadows of war stretch far beyond Varknal." Ilara absorbed the warning, the familiar thrill of challenge sparking within her. "We're ready," she replied. Later, as night fell, Ilara stood beneath the stars, reflecting on humanity's journey, from Earth's chaotic history to the brutal crucible of the Deathworld Alliance. Humans had endured and thrived where others faltered. They had become a force that defied expectations, unpredictable, relentless, and fiercely determined. Nate joined her silently, looking up at the constellation of distant worlds. "What's next?" he asked. Ilara smiled, a mix of fatigue and fierce hope. "We rebuild, we explore, we fight for a galaxy that doesn't fear us, but respects us." The stars above seemed to pulse with possibility, a new dawn rising not just on Varknal, but across the cosmos. As the first light of morning spread, the human flag, simple but bold, was raised beside those of their new allies, a symbol of survival, a beacon of change. The Deathworld Alliance had feared the wrath of humans, and they had learned to regret ever inviting them, because humanity's story was just beginning.